We've known each other for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've noticed that you've managed to be able to turn social media into building social communities on and offline. What gave you the idea of doing it, and how do you achieve such great success with it? Because you just push it, and
Um,
push it, and push it.
the idea, obviously, of using social media for my business is because for the awards, I need to reach out to people that don't know I exist, for one. It is a great platform. I've found that Instagram works better than Facebook in terms of reaching people because a lot of the businesses, I don't know who they are. So I'll go on and I can instantly tag them because they'll either follow me already or things like that. So I've been able to use that to bring people together in terms of doing the awards. They almost feel like they know each other before they've even got there, even though they don't know the companies, which obviously is really, really good.
So for people who don't know, tell them about the business. Bolton Women in Business and Women in Business and Men in Business, basically your entire portfolio and what it does and how it brings people together.
So all of the awards are obviously separate awards. So I've got the Women in Business. It was Bolton Women in Business, but I've taken the Bolton off now just because I want to spread further afield with the awards and where my reach goes to. Um, and my first one was the Bolton Health and Wellbeing Awards, but I will keep that as that, just because that's a smaller knit and it's a smaller event in total numbers, but I like it like that. Again, this year for I've got the Men in Business coming up in May. It was my first one last year, so that I find is a lot harder in terms of reaching out to people.
Just because men are less social and a
Yeah.
bit more guarded.
Um, I wouldn't say guarded. I think sometimes if you just emailed everybody, half the emails wouldn't even be open, and even the ones that did get read, a lot of them said, "Oh, I just thought it was a joke thing or a spam thing." So it's about building that community first to try and do other things so that I can build up the Men in Business Awards. I've got to look at that in a different way than I do the women's. The women's is really, really easy. You tag somebody in, and then they'll collaborate with you, they'll share it, and all that kind of thing. Where I definitely find that the men don't do that. Obviously,
Any reason?
um, I just think it's a different audience, really. I think sometimes when you put something up for the men's, they either love it or they don't get it. Or like I say, some of them don't even get the emails and things like that. I know I'm having trouble with emails bouncing around. I couldn't survive my business just using emails. There's no chance. It is the social media and the way that I built the social media and tag people that enables it then to snowball and other people see it.
Let's start with health and well-being because that's across both genders.
Yeah.
What does it do, and how does it help local communities?
So the health and wellbeing one is obviously my baby, which I've been doing now. It'll be the eighth year this year, so really excited for that. Always do it towards the end of the year. I find after the summer holidays and things. And again, that kind of not that it started big, but it went quite big quite quickly into what I thought it was going to be.
How did you achieve that, or did it just organically happen and you just kind of had to adapt really quickly?
A bit of both, really. Obviously, when I started putting it out there, it was the time when everybody was getting into health and fitness. The world was changing in general. You know, pubs were shutting down and things like that. People were taking on board more interest in the health. There was a lot of gyms opening, and things like that. So when I was putting it out there to say this is what I'm doing, a lot of people instantly did like it and jumped on board. So therefore nominated people, put people forward and everything. The first year I was contracted to something like 120 and I was panicking thinking, oh, am I going to get all these people in? And it did blow up and I ended up with about 220 in a short space of time. But like you say, when it's a mixture of men and women at that one, so you can get a gym, for instance, that will book a full table and they'll all come and support whoever it is that's up. Um, and again, then that spreads um, into snowballs into that you get more interest and the year after.
When we're at the awards, we actually see people celebrating each other's tables, and you encourage that quite heavily. Tell us how that happens, because in business, people are rivals to each other, but that's not what we see you germinating across social
No,
media.
not at all. And that's with all of the awards. The first women one that I did, there was a lady up for an award called Jess McHugh, who has a hairdressers in Edgerton. And honestly, all night she was on her feet. Every single person, whether she knew them or not, it didn't matter. You could hear her. And I literally said the year after, I'm going to hire you, because yeah, she just rooted for everybody. But it wasn't just her. As soon as I put on the first song and all the ladies were on the feet and everything, and then the whole room felt like it just glued together. I can't explain it. I had John on the stage with me, John McGinley hosted, and he just turned to me and went, if you could bottle that up and sell it, because the atmosphere was something else. And it literally, I had to stand back and take a few minutes and look out at all these women. And, you know, maybe one or two of them did know each other, and maybe some of them came on their own, you know, but every single person felt that whole community feel and everybody just rooting for each other. And from there, I thought, I've created something really special here. And again, you know, that stands with the health and wellbeing one. Like you said, it didn't matter on the night whether they won, whether they lost. They were all. It felt like everybody was just really grateful to be there, to have been recognised, you know, as a finalist, or even just somebody putting them forward and recognising the business. You know, there were people there who had small businesses, there were people who had big gyms, there was individuals, PTs, things like that. But it it did feel, and again with the men's, it felt the same.
No, the men's this year was, it was an odd. Once people, as an observer, which is what we are, we're just observers. Once people started realizing that they weren't there in competition with each other, they were there in community with each other, then the entire atmosphere changed.
It did. Sometimes I think people have got an opinion on something before they've even gone to it. So there is awards out there that, you know, are different to mine, and it's a bit more formal, if you like, in the way that they're set about. Some people didn't know whether they were expected to speak or not. It was almost like the room was kind of trying to weigh each other up. And then we had that one guy who came up, he was cheering and shouting, you got fabulous photos of him, it was amazing. And then it was almost like the room kind of went, oh.
It flipped, yeah.
Yeah, and then it was like everybody was shouting for everybody.
Was it the football academy that were on the stage? As I'm looking at the stage, it's on the right hand side, and we had a big group table just here, and they realised they were here for a party.
They were here for a night out, yeah.
That had an awards element to it.
Yeah.
Not an awards where, oh, we're not going to win, so that's it. As soon as my name's called, we're going to go.
Yeah.
They weren't. They were on the dance floor.
And that's something that I definitely have tried to create from the start, in that when you buy a ticket, you're buying an experience, you're buying a night out. It's not, you know, oh, come along if you don't win and then you slope off out the door. We have fantastic entertainment. I listen to what people say, and, you know, some people say, well, that wasn't for me, but, you know, maybe what about trying this? Or it is looking at the different groups, and who your audience is as to how they'll react. I find the health and wellbeing one is more so the one where people are a bit less engaged afterwards, but more engaged whilst it's going on.
Right.
Whereas the women's one, they can be a bit more relaxed, shouting each other on, things like that, enjoying themselves. And then obviously once that music comes on, then they're there. They're all on the dance floor. They know they're in for, you know,
they're in for the party.
Party and entertainment. Or
how do you move that forward throughout the year? How do you keep the momentum going?
if I'm honest, with the Health and Wellbeing Awards, I didn't really keep the momentum going much throughout the year. And obviously, over the years, I've realised that it's something that I need to do to build all three of them, and not just have it where when it finishes, then it ends. and then nothing's done on it until it comes around the next time for the voting and things. In particular with the women's, I am looking to do different things, like you say, within the community, so that I can build small groups, but these small groups are going to be within their own category. So they'll meet the people that they're up against. Because, like you said, every collaboration that you put, you never know what's going to come of that. So I can put 5 hairdressers in a room, and one of them might say, well, I don't do that. So if I get any inquiries for that, I'll pass them on to you. There's always an opportunity for the business side of things, no matter who you're putting together.
So you like putting people together that have met on social media and mix socially, almost, what do they call it nowadays? Social lurking.
Yeah.
You'll actually
Yeah.
put them in a room together and actually chat to each other,
Yeah.
so they can actually find out the strengths and weaknesses of the businesses and what not to do and how to do it.
Yeah. And again, with social media, I've learned things as I've gone along. I sometimes find myself doing something and think, oh, I didn't even know that existed. That's great. That's really going to help me. So it's about trying to bring people together and say, this is how I run my social media. My social media is quite, I want to say personal, but it's more so, my social media isn't, it's run as me. So it's almost like they're having a conversation with me, as opposed to it being some AI generated thing that's just bumped on there. So I try and keep it so that it is personal and speak to them on a personal level.
You're keeping the social within the social media.
Absolutely.
Tell us one great thing that you've learned recently about social media and what it can do in the way of community building.
One of the greatest things is bringing the businesses together who don't know each other. So the women's this year is it's, I would say, 80% of the nominees are new nominees, which is really, 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 really good for me. So then I use social media to pull in the people who maybe have won in previous years, get them together. I did an afternoon tea, and April came along. She's a previous winner and things like that. Going forward, what I'm trying to do is create that kind of community of people who have won and who know the process and things like that. And like you said, do interviews with them, get them doing things that I can then post, which will show them how the awards work better than me doing a post. Some people don't read a full post. You can put on a full thing of how it works, but they'll skim past the first few things. But if it's somebody there telling them, speaking to them, showing them, explaining their story, which is really, really important. And that's something that the social media's allowed me to do, is to bring people in front of other people so that they can share their experience.
Have you had any real success stories? I know I mentioned April. I very rarely remember people's names. April is one of those people that we've seen at a couple of awards, and whenever she's spoken to us about it, she's always said what a great thing it's been for her and her business and the community that she's built around it. Tell us a little bit about that.
I would say one of my not biggest success stories, but one that sticks in my mind more than anything, is from one of the first, maybe the first or second health and wellbeing awards that I did. And a guy called Johnny Sands came along, and it was one of the first awards, and he was unsure of how the format was and things like that. And once they all got in the room, I think he was thinking, oh, it'd be great if I win, but, I'm not expecting to. And I think a lot of people come along thinking that, which is nice because it's quite vulnerable and quite open and honest. And it's almost like they're protecting themselves before they get there. When I get up at the beginning and kind of say, it isn't about the winning or losing. It's about the fact that you're here and the things that you will build and create from this. So Johnny went on to build his business and grow it off the back of winning the awards, and came to me the year after and said, I've been put up, but I'm not even bothered about being up for the awards, but we still want to come to the awards, but we want to give somebody else the same opportunity that we had, because what it did was it just shot them from from a small kind of community business, it allowed them to grow that business.
So you give them a larger platform to be
Yeah.
able to advertise themselves on. So let's move on to someone. We'll talk about April, because she's such a larger than life character for such in such a young body. How has she said that it's building this community that you've put together has helped her with her business in general?
I think the awards have given April a lot of confidence. I think, you know, she is a young girl, a young woman, should I say, with her own business. And again, I think she was just kind of going through the motions of running the business, trying to manage people and things like that. And then when the awards came about, April came along, she was so excited for everybody, not just for her. You know, she brought some of the girls from the salon and things like that. It was a night out for them. And then she went on to win, and has won in a couple of different categories, won in the same category a couple of times. You know, people say to me, "Oh, I'm not going to get involved next year because I won't win." Well, why will you not?
Because April's in.
So, and again, April stepped back this year, but put forward some of her girls, or some of her girls have been put forward. Whether she's put them forward or not, I'm not sure. But she came to the afternoon tea and she said, "I've done some cue cards. Is that okay?" And I was like, "That's fantastic." She said, and you could see how nervous she were. If you look at somebody's social media nowadays, you just see the confidence. You see these fantastic photos of her with a trophy in the air, a big smile on her face and everything. And everybody, you know, must think, "Oh, she's beaming with confidence and everything." But that's not necessarily always the case. It's the same with me. If somebody put me in a room in front of 40 people and said, "Speak about yourself," I'd be like, "I don't want to do this. I want to go home. Where's the buzz?" But then they say, you know, "Well, you get on the stage in front of 400 people and all the rest of it." And so it's bringing people out of that comfort zone and giving them that platform that they need to be able to go, "Actually, I'm really good, me," you know, and seeing, and I think sometimes making people write down what they've achieved and how good they are makes them actually go, "Really good, me. I am really good, me. I'm going to read that." And then they kind of read it almost as if they're reading it in somebody else's eyes.
It's like a self-affirmation because you've written it down and you're reading your own story as opposed to you're reading it through somebody else's eyes.
Yeah. And April speaks, you know, so eloquently. And she stood there in front of this room of people, and you could see that she was nervous, and she was reading off the cue cards and everything, but nobody would have known that. I obviously could pick up on it because I knew her, but she came across so well, and what she shared was really, really special. And even for me, I sat there and looked at her and thought, "She's on about my awards." It was almost that, it's bizarre, isn't it? You know, when you're sitting there, and I thought, I'm so pleased with what she's got from coming to the awards, and that she's been able to share a story with new people to say, this is where these awards can take your business.
So as your business is growing, what do you think is going to be your percentage of online and offline activities?
Ooh, we had this conversation last night, bizarrely enough. Hopefully, I'm going to take it more to kind of 50-50, if you like. So then, obviously, the social media side of it is me sat at my desk with the computers and all the rest of it. To get out there, start doing other things, having meetings, doing all these other things is really, really, really important. Perhaps might not work with the men's one, but I know that it'll work with the women's one, 100%. We all like getting together, having a cup of tea, coffee, cake. Come in, what's your problems? How are you struggling with business? So that then it's not just about the awards. It's a whole range of things. I can do different topics, you know, and it seems everybody's doing workshops these days, so we'll just throw a few workshops in there, you know. It's like,
But workshops were a difference. They're not a generic workshop. They're going to be something that's a little bit more tailored to somebody says something in a previous workshop, and you turn around and go, right, well, if somebody's struggling with that, then we can move forward with it.
yeah. And again, I'll gain from that. I'll gain as much doing these things. And again, even with the cost, I don't want to be charging people for things. You know, it's difficult enough now running a business.
You've still got to pay your own mortgage.
Yeah, you still got to pay your mortgage. I mean, but at the end of the day, if it's small groups, you know, I even spoke about having it in my kitchen. So there's no cost to anybody. It's just get these people to come along who, even if it's 5 or 6 people, you're always going to get something from that.
What's then in it for you and the person who's watching, listening? What do they gain from that?
Knowledge, more than anything. So it enables us all to sit there, talk about each other's weaknesses and strengths. And somebody might say, well, I'm really, really good at this. So then we can say, right, well, then can we boot you for, an hour to teach us all to do social media? So, and, everybody will kind of bring something to the table that then perhaps can help somebody else who might not be able to do that kind of thing.
So it's more about collaboration than it is monetary value.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it comes down to it, that's what money is. It's just a way of trading one thing you're good at for another thing that somebody else is good at.
So you're giving your time in preference to actually saying, well, there's my £10, I'm going to come along and I'm going to not take away anything from it though. I'm a bit disappointed. If you say, right, well, an hour of my time is worth X amount of pounds, so then instead of that, we'll all give each other an hour of our time, swap tips, swap, ideas, maybe swap clients, give each other new clients. That's more valuable to me.
Who's in those groups? It's not just a lot of hairdressers that are all talking about, I use these extensions, I use this extensions.
No.
You've got people like Kay is
Yeah,
Kay involved
so
quite a bit.
again, with the smaller groups, I would kind of have one person who would be a guest speaker, I suppose, and then, sit in the room and say, these are my experiences from the awards, these are my experiences from a business, and enable each other then to learn something from that person who's perhaps been in business longer than the other ladies and things. So, yeah, it's about that collaboration. And as well, if you put 5 or 6 people in a room who, it doesn't matter whether they're all hairdressers or it doesn't matter whether they're all different businesses, you'll find that they'll gain something from it.
Anita, thanks for coming in today and sharing your journey with us and showing me particularly that building an online community is as much about what you do offline. I'll link in below so that people can follow your journey and see what it is that you're up to and some of the great content you put out.
Thank you.